Today I'm going to be making a valance for the baby's room. This is an extremely simple project that honestly you can whip up in about 10 or 15 minutes. All you need is some fabric. I'm just going to use plain white fabric. It's 100% cotton. And then obviously a rod to hang the curtain on and then some scissors to cut it. You can do this project by hand sewing, but I'm going to use a sewing machine. So the first thing we're going to do is cut the fabric, and the dimensions that I always do, I like it if the valance hangs down 15 inches, but you're going to want to add 3 extra inches to it, and I'll explain why by showing you with this one. This is a valance that I made for my other boy's room, and you need this part that hangs down here, which is an extra 3 inches, because you need obviously to fold it over to have a spot for your rod to go through, and then I like to leave a little bit extra on top because it adds a ruffle, which you'll see at the end when we're done. So for this size rod, I do a 2-inch gap here, and then I like the extra inch on top to have that little ruffle when it's finished. So altogether, the fabric from top to bottom needs to be 18 inches. Now, obviously, if your rod was wider than this one, you may need more than a 2-inch gap. So you may need this to be 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches if it's a big round rod. But I just have one of these cheap little rods that's like 99 cents. So the 2 inches is plenty. My length of the blanket is going to be 4.5 feet, just because I want it to be larger than the window so that it has ruffle in it and some extra fabric. Got our fabric cut, now we're going to iron it to make sure it's perfectly straight and it's easier to sew that way. All right, now since this fabric is white fabric, I'm gonna put actually a protective layer of fabric on top of it when I iron it, because if not, my iron's just a hair dirty, all of that is gonna get on my white fabric, and that's gonna make me mad. Sewing machine is threaded and ready to go. Got my fabric right here. So as you can see, well, you may not be able to see, but this has a finished end. I'm gonna use that as the bottom of this. So this here is going to be my top. What we're going to do first is fold this in just 1/4 inch, and we're going to sew along that whole seam all the way down on both sides. Got my line sewn in, so both sides are sewn. They're folded over, and next I'm going to take the bottom part and do the same thing. Where that little corner is, we're going to fold it over like this, and we're going to sew across the whole bottom of the valance. So now the entire bottom of it is done. Now, if I was giving this away as a gift, I would actually take this again and fold it under one more time and stitch across that, because if you look closely, you can see that these edges are not perfect, but for me, using this in my nursery, I really don't care. But if I was going to give it away as a gift, I would fold it over one more time and sew another line on there. That way there was no exposed edges of unfinished fabric. But it's on the back of it anyway, so honestly it doesn't matter. Okay, so now we got both sides sewn in the bottom. We're going to work on the top. So this is the part where we're going to fold it down 3 inches. And at first, we're just going to sew a line across the bottom of this all the way along the top part of the valance. That part is done. So easy. You just literally sew a straight line. And honestly, if your line's not straight, it really doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. So that is finished. So that is our line that I sewed 3 inches down. Now I'm going to go down 1 inch from the top, and I'm going to sew another line. So this top section here that's 1 inch is not going to have anything in it. That's just going to add a ruffle to the top of the curtain. But this hole down here that's about 2 inches wide is where the rod is actually going to be. And it's literally finished. Took me less than 10 minutes from start to finish to make the entire valance. And so now I'll go hang it up so that we can see what it looks like. So this is what the valance looks like, hanging up on a curtain rod. If you were to make it much shorter, it would just stretch straight. It would not have any ruffles, but this is why I say make it too long. So I'll put the dimensions of the window and the length of the curtains in the video here. But this is how it turns out. And then if you also did not want it to have the ruffle on top, you just don't sew that line. But I like the ruffle on top. I think it adds a little bit of texture to it, and it looks cute for a little baby's room. Now, I could stop here, obviously, if I just wanted a white valance on a window, but because the baby's theme is mountain themed, I'm going to put some mountains on the bottom of the valance, and I'm going to sew them on there. So I'll put that in the video as well. In case you want to do that, you can see how to do it because it's so simple. So this is the gray fabric that I picked out, and this is what the mountain scene is going to be cut out of. So I'm not even going to trace anything. I'm just going to pretty much cut zigzags going up and down, different shapes, sizes, and dimensions, all the way across and cut it out. And then I'm going to sew it to the bottom of the valance. Here it is. Super easy. Just different size mountains all the way across. And honestly, I can't find my sewing scissors because I haven't gotten everything out of boxes yet in the new house, but these are some good old kitchen scissors, and they worked just fine. So, anyway, here it is. Now, we're going to sew it onto the bottom of the valance, and everything else in this project, we've sewed just straight lines, but for this one, we're going to sew a zigzag going up and over like this, and that will keep this fabric from fraying. Now, because this fabric is gray, and the stitching is going to go over top of the gray fabric, not the white fabric, I do want my thread to be gray. Now, I don't have any bobbins that have gray thread on them, so I'm going to make my own bobbin. So you can obviously do this too. If you have a sewing machine, it's so simple. Every modern day sewing machine has this type of setup. It may be a little different, but this is how mine works. Just hook it through there, bring it over here. You're supposed to put it through that little hole. I skipped that step. Just wrap it around a few times. Push this little thing over so it locks in, and then you're going to use your pedal, just like you do to sew, and just like that. It is going to spin your own bobbin of thread. And it's done. Now, before I go through and do the zigzag stitch on every mountain, I'm just going to put this at the bottom, and I'm going to sew a straight line all the way across to attach that to it. We got our mountains sewed on. Now, I'm not necessarily worried about what the bottom looks like. I'm going to buy some type of design to put along the bottom that I'm going to sew on. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I was pretty clear on what I was doing. I only have a little bit left, so I'm going to slow down the video so you can see it. So I just sewed down this line to here. Now I'm going to pick up this part of my sewing machine with my lever. I'm going to turn it, just swivel it around, and then I'm going to put it back down, and then I'm going to sew that zigzag stitch going this way. And that's kind of how you do it, going back and forth to get these mountains sewed. And as you can see, all the thread I'm trying to keep on the gray part. So it comes over, and then it goes back over onto the white part, and then gray, and then over to the edge. It's never sewing a lot on the white. And then I'm going to do that same thing again. Lift it up, swivel it around, put it down, and sew. And it's done. It turned out so cute. It's so simple. And if you look closely, you can see the zigzag lines. And it's not perfect. I mean, there's parts where fabric come out, but this is just a little valance for a baby's room. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. So now all I need to do is paint some snow peaks and those caps on some of the mountains. Okay, so the mountain peaks are dry on the balance here, and now I'm just trying to figure out what trim I want to use. I actually like this style trim so much more. I think it's adorable, but I accidentally bought navy blue instead of black, so I think I'm going to go with this little dot trim that's gray. And all I'm going to do is stitch along the edge here with a straight line to attach it. It's done. Got the little edging on there. Turned out really cute. So now I'm gonna go hang it up. It's done. I just got home from work and I forgot to record this yesterday, so I'm doing it now. But I really like how it turned out. It's so cute. You've got the mountains and the little snow peaks. It's simple, but it's adorable. And it really matches the baby's theme. If you look over here, you can see the wall. The baby's room is not finished at all, but here's the mountain scene. And so when I'm finished with the baby's room, I'll put the link in the description so you can see the nursery video.